Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Susie Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have another really exciting interview ahead of us about finally putting yourself first as you start a coaching business. Today, you'll be meeting Missy Wokasch, a woman in the middle entrepreneur whose life coaching business is targeted at women struggling in the sandwich generation, because that is near and dear to her heart. Welcome to the show, Missy. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Susie. I'm really looking forward to visiting with you.
Me too. We've been having a great little chat about our dogs. Apparently, we both have Velcro dogs. So fun.
Yes. Yes.
So I know we're going to have a great conversation today about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way a little bit here and there, a hiccup, something bigger, something smaller, all the things. And these are getting in the way of maybe in your life as well as being a business owner, like trying to run your business, trying to focus. So let's start with a really nice question. How old are you? How long have you been an entrepreneur? And what do you do in the world? So take it away.
Well, then I'm 57 years old and I live in northern Minnesota, which you'll probably be able to tell by my accent.
Just a little.
It's really hard to say Minnesota without sounding like you're from Minnesota. But so I have been a life coach for a couple of years now. I got certified in 2020. And but I have been getting coaching or been a recipient of coaching for at least 20 years or more. Back in the day when I was listening to cassette tapes on my kids' little play school tape recorder, I was listening to Tony Robbins.
That's hilarious.
I had the whole set. I had like a shoebox full of them.
Wow.
And would just change them out each day. And then went on to Walk on Coals and did the whole program with Tony Robbins, and then just went on from there and realized how you don't have to struggle like I thought. I watched my mom be miserable in many aspects of her life for my whole life, and she just like accepted it, that this is what it's like. And I realized through coaching and self-help and all that you can change the trajectory of things, and you don't have to just put up and shut up. But she was from the old school World War II generation. So that's just what they were told. I was a little buckier than that. And so,
but I'm just curious, I'm sorry to jump in already, but I just love your story already. So why do you think you noticed that this didn't need to be the same for you?
Well, I was pretty headstrong. I would say I have I'm kind of bullheaded like my dad in that regard. And at the time in my 20s, I was pretty bucky, I used to say. I mean, like I was kind of feisty. And I went to college. I was the first one in the family to go to college and got a degree, and I was going to like kill the world.
Got it. So by going to college, you met lots of people from all over.
Right.
Yes. Okay. That's probably what did it. You started to hear things and learn things.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I guess listening to my little tapes.
Yeah.
On how, everybody doesn't think like that. Or, I can. And I learned how to change some of my attitudes or beliefs about things, or it just opened my eyes up.
Yeah.
That I had more control than I thought I did, or than my mom thought she did, so I had been taught. And so it just opened up my world. And I guess one of his main phrases is CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. And I guess it kind of stuck in that you're always evolving, you're always changing as a human, and that you have control over that, and you can not use that, but I mean, it's more in your control to constantly evolve in the direction that you want to, and that you aren't stagnant, you aren't the victim, you aren't stuck unless you choose to be.
Pretty powerful stuff, pretty life-changing stuff. And that realization, and for you to compare it to your mother's belief system,
Hmm.
That's amazing because not, as you know, you met lots of
Right.
people who don't question anything.
For sure. And my mom, I mean, my mom did, but she was from a whole different generation. They were very old when she had me. So they were in their 40s when I was born. And so she was raised that, I mean, when she got out of high school, she wanted to go to school to be a nurse. And her dad said, no, you're going to stay home and you're going to be my secretary for my business. And that's just the way it's going to be. And like, he wouldn't let her get a driver's license. He wouldn't do a lot. I mean, that's just how it was. Like,
Wow.
you're going to do what I said. And that's what women do. And so, and then she got married. And my dad was like, well, I'm not taking you to the grocery store. You getting your license. And he kind of bolstered a little bit more of her spunk. And as interestingly enough, when she was in her 50s, she went back to college to be a chemical dependency counselor after she had been through treatment herself. So I'm kind of following in her same footsteps of that second chapter in your mid to late 50s to finally follow your dreams, I think, because I did set a lot of that aside. So much of my own dreams from college never materialized because I took on the subservient, I don't know if that's the right word, the secondary role to my husband's was divorced and remarried and they were always the breadwinner. So I did the kids and the mom thing. And while still working full time, it was
Obviously.
also in the 80s where, we can fry it up in a pan and we can,
Yeah.
do it all
Yeah,
was the
that was
messaging that I was
yes,
taught
very
for
much the
so long.
messaging. Yes.
Yeah. That you could have the
Wow.
power suit and still make supper and deal with the kids and do all these things. I went for that hook, line, and sinker.
So when you were in the midst of all that,
Mm-hmm.
were you thinking it's too much, or were you just, this is
Oh,
just the
yeah.
way we roll?
Well, I loved it for a long time and I took it on because I'm a doer and I wore it like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I can work full time and take care of kids. And then I got remarried and now I have a blended family of 4 kids and I just took it all on. And I still tease my husband. I'm like, how nice would it be? All you have to do is work. How nice. Isn't that nice? If all I had to do was work, life would be so grand. But I got all the cooking, the cleaning, the dishes, the shopping, and working. And I work full time and all the doctoring and your parents and my parents and, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. This is why we're
And
having this podcast.
for
This is
sure.
exactly why.
Right.
Because they're not even aware of what's not on their plate. That invisible
No.
workload is so invisible to them.
Right. Right. Well, and it's not so invisible because I point it out to him frequently.
Well, that's good.
But it doesn't change, just because he's aware of it doesn't mean it's changing either.
Mm,
I'm the one that has to, and like everything, you're the only one that can make you happy. So you have to change how you do things and they'll either follow suit or push back or whatever. But if you don't ask, you can't blame them for letting you do everything while they sit and read the paper. It's not their fault if I'm taking it all on. So even though I was very angry and resentful, it dawned on me not very long since I got into coaching that, that was a position that I put myself in. He didn't ask me to do any
yeah.
of that.
And I was actually just thinking when you remarried and you were older,
Mhm.
did you negotiate the role at all, or did you just slip into more of the same?
More of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've been married for 23 years now, so it's old hat and I hadn't learned I was a very insecure even though I was headstrong and bucky, I was internally very insecure and lack of confidence in everything, and that was why I never spoke up because I didn't think I was worthy. That's just what somehow I think I got the messaging from my mother that this is what women do. This is what, to be a good mom, you do this. To be a good woman, you do this. You sit like a lady. You talk like a lady. You keep a clean house. You keep your kids neat and tidy and let the men work and all that. So I was kind of juggling. The only thing I figured out different was to add a full-time job into her preconceived ideas. So it didn't work very well. I burned out, well, probably several times. I mean,
Yeah.
I believe that I'm going to be veering off into more of the burnout, and most of the clients that I work with are more towards the burnout end of life, where they've just had it. They can't keep all the plates spinning any longer.
Mhm.
They're trying to do a career and their kids, and now their parents or their in-laws and their grandkids. And after a while, your body literally breaks down, mentally, physically, emotionally. You don't have anything else to give after a while, where you have a lot more forgiveness, or your body has a lot more forgiveness when you're younger, and
Mm,
resilience.
for sure.
Our
Yeah.
age, you don't bounce back from that very well.
No, that's true. So,
That
how did you find coaching yourself? Like, when did you make that decision to add that to the things that you were doing?
Well, I have always had this burning desire to have my own business, but I've had several different careers. I was in advertising, I've been in insurance, I've been HR, I've been in retail. I've done a lot of, I've never really loved any of it. So I was always open to any passing ship that would get me out of it. And I was always good at whatever I did, but never enough that I wanted to make a business out of it.
Hmm.
But I've always wanted to have my own business. And then I started listening to podcasts like yours and Jody Moore and Brooke Castillo and a lot of people that really changed. I had kind of drifted away from a lot of the other big people like Tony Robbins, and I really didn't know much about podcasts. And then it became so easy. I'm like, oh, look at how, oh, and then I was like
Well,
on
I call it
track.
it's a party in your purse.
It is. You
Because
can
it's
just
like, oh my
like
God, this much
listen.
fun right here.
Right. And I was traveling a lot for work. And so I had a lot of windshield time, and it was just like, okay, what else can I listen to? What else? And who else? And oh, they mentioned that and they mentioned that. And I just lit up. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Now I found what I really want to do, and I want to make a business out of it. Not only do I want to coach, and I thought about coaching for other people and all of that, but I'm like, no, this is something I love enough that I want to make a business, a career out of. And with the goal in mind that I was 55 at the time. And I'm like, and we're starting to actively plan for retirement, and like, what's that going to look like? Where are we going to be? What kind of a lifestyle? What kind of money? Blah, blah, blah. And my husband has a plumbing and heating contractor business. He's been self-employed this whole time. So, which is another reason why I took the back seat, because he had the business. And he's getting really broke down, and he's like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And I see flashes of like back injuries and strokes and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I don't want you to get injured, because we got plans. We got plans in retirement, and you better not get broke down. So that's a big motivation for me, is to try to get him to be, so I can earn more money to replace his income, so he can step back and take a break physically, so that we can have the retirement that we want and be active and physically able, because the
Yeah.
people around us are dropping like flies. We've got strokes and heart attacks and Parkinson's, and we have a lot of serious illness
Oh,
in our, friends and family. And, the older you get, the more you run into stuff like that,
yeah, it's true.
if they're not passing away. So we're like, all right, we need to be smart about this, take care of our health, get our testing done and take your vitamins and exercise and eat well and all that. And I'm just really, I'm more concerned about his back and his health than he is, of course. But it's also motivates me that I really want to get my business up and running as fast as I can, to be able to let him take the back seat. And then also so that I want something that I can do into retirement, because I don't see myself being sitting in a recliner or quilting, or although I have taken up pickleball, and that's pretty fun.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
That's for sure.
that might detract me, but I want something that I can do at my own, if I can get it up and running in the next 10 years, so that I can do it at my own pace and where I want, because I want to travel, is kind of my vision for it longer term.
You mean when you get it up and running, not if.
When I get it up and running.
Yes.
As
Just
soon
a
as
small,
possible.
yeah.
Like, yes. When I want to make billions of dollars.
Well, it's just so, it's so much fun to think about retirement differently than you grew up thinking about retirement. So I don't know where we all got that image of recliners and rocking chairs. But nobody I've spoken to on this podcast has those images at all about what it means for them. And certainly creating a business, and you can create your business however you want, that allows for flexibility and allows for you to work 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, 30 hours a week, 60 hours a week, whatever you want.
Right.
And whenever you need it, you need to shift into that, right? So it's really, really up to you. And that's
and to make it your own call. I mean, I've been self-employed, so to speak, but always for someone else's business. And they were calling the shots or their deadlines, their goals, their aspirations. I've always been in more of a supportive role. So it's been very uncomfortable, or it's exactly what I wanted, was to have my business and what about me? But it's also equally uncomfortable to have it all about you and not be able to rely on, well, that's what she wants, or that's what their goal is, or that's what we're striving for, or,
Yes. Decision fatigue is a real thing.
That, and just the, I don't know, the responsibility or the magnitude of it, that it's on you. What do you want to do? Now you can do anything you want. I've never really had my choice in career wise. It was always about their goals or their requirements or their schedule, or, so it's exactly what I wanted. It's just new.
Yeah, of course, definitely. So let me hear then about these hiccups, because you're not alone. There are hiccups. I think it's funny. I decided to call them hiccups to help with mindset. But sometimes they're really not a hiccup, and it's a massive life-altering thing that needs to be dealt with and can change your life completely. For example, when a parent or in-law gets sick, or something tragic happens, or crazy, horrible, scary diagnosis, any of that kind of stuff. So tell me what's been going on with you, and how is, whatever it is, how has it affected your ability to run your business the way you want?
Well, ongoing is my health issues that are not going away because of ongoing stress and trauma and my perpetual burnout. I have a lot more health issues and more adrenal fatigue and just exhaustion that I am trying to come to grips with and not push through, that I've spent years just pushing through and ignoring what my body was trying to tell me. That old commercial about some donuts, like it's time to make the donuts, and he's like dragging in to the donut shop. It's kind of how I've been. I just like, okay, it's time to go. It's time Monday morning. So that has been one issue. And then, or kind of ongoing, that will probably be the rest of my life, because they're cumulative issues that you don't just rebound from. And, then coupled with my in-laws. So my parents died like 5 years ago, and I dealt with all of that, their illnesses and hip surgeries and nursing homes and funerals and all that kind of stuff before I got into coaching. And that was another source of my burnout, was going while I had kids and jobs and all that. So then I added that on to what we were talking about earlier. Then I added my parents into it. But, and now since I've been in coaching, now my in-laws are getting elderly and unhealthy. And so we spent I was at Mayo Clinic, which is in Minnesota, with my mother-in-law for like 3 weeks straight with a very serious health condition. And I just like dove in. I mean, it's what I do as a I mean, that's where my strong suit is caring for people and taking care of situations and seeing the forest for the trees and taking control of a situation. I'm like, I can do it. So I set everything aside. My business like went dormant, and then my health declined again, even further. So she got out. My husband helped me break the ties and told the rest of the family, like, no, Missy's done. It's your turn, done our share. So that helped. It helped to have a partner in crime. Plus, it was his family. What was I doing there in the first place?
Well, what were you doing there in the first place?
Oh, that's what caretakers do. Like, and when you can, and no, it was one of those situations where like you got everybody standing in a line and they go, who wants to do it? And like everybody else steps back and you're stuck there like, well, I guess, I just did it with my parents. I'll do it with yours too. And there was lots of twists and turns with all of that, like any family dynamic that goes on, and health and aging and logistics and all that kind of stuff. But the effect of my business is that I totally ignored it because I had to. Like something had to give. I had my computer with me. I could have kept up with, something, but I couldn't. And it would have been a perfect example because that's the people that I coach, is people who are dealing with aging parents and kids and careers. It was perfect material, but I was in the fire too deep to save myself. So,
in a way, though, that is saving yourself. I mean, you made a choice that allowed you to stay present and to focus on something that you've prioritized.
Right.
So,
and it was literally a life and death situation. And so I did choose that. That's a very good point, that I did knowingly choose to be there to do this and, try to maintain my own sanity as best I can and give myself grace and compassion that I'll come back. It'll come back, but right now this is, a big deal. And so it did. It got over and I came back and I'm still getting in the, back in the groove while still healing physically, because I let myself get so depleted that I'm having to juggle self-care and business and, all of that is still juggling. And you're never there. It's kind of like weight loss. It's not like it's ever going to be done. It's just an evolution of today. I've got it might be 60-40, it might be 80-20, it might be 90-10, but you're constantly kind of looking at your energy meter of what do you have in the tank, your gas tank for energy to offer, and what's the best way to divide it up with what is going on. So
yeah, that's really a good lead into the next question, is like, what have you noticed about being an entrepreneur who's older? So when we're over 50 and we're an entrepreneur, it's different. Not that you were an entrepreneur when you're in your 20s, but in terms of energy, which is what you're talking about, there are differences. So would you say that's the biggest issue for you right now?
The energy and health. Confidence has been surprising. I thought I had more self-confidence. I find myself feeling old, like with social media and some of the tech. And it's like, oh, of course, there's an app for that. Oh, yeah, sure. What else do I need to learn? And the tech has been a kind of a eye opener that I find myself blaming age on. But if you think about it, everybody starting a business has to learn those things. Like nobody just even in their 20s or 30s knows all the tech that's out there or the steps to do things.
It's true. One thing I've noticed though, I had to deal with my own mindset around tech a lot in the beginning as well. And because we grew up with floppy disks, and I always have a flashback to 1980, 81 in the computer lab in high school, where there was a catastrophe and it had to do it with a floppy disk. And so I always think if I touch that, like I'm not comfortable playing around in an app sometimes if it has to do with work.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, well, if I touch that, it's just going to disappear and I'll never be able to fix it.
Oh.
Like, I'll never be able to fix it. Whereas I watch my kids learning tech and they have no doubt that they can fix things and that they can find answers on Google.
Right.
Like it's just a very different mindset about how to solve tech problems based on, for me, when I had a lot of fear And I just really felt like I knew absolutely nothing. I was still using a typewriter in university. I was
Yeah.
typing people's papers and making some money.
Hmm. Yeah, we had to sign up. I was a couple years behind you, but we had to sign up for the computer lab too. So we had to have our paper all written out, and then we could go there just to type it in this. And the computers took a whole building for the
Right.
computer lab. They were monstrous. So
It was
yeah,
a
I don't
different time.
have
Yeah.
that. I'm not as worried about things going away. Is just the effort, I
Yeah.
think, of like all new terminology, all new things, and
And every
it's
day there's a
never.
new app or a new solution or a new tech
Oh,
or I know like that's the other thing. So what you said about you're just not there, you're never there.
right.
I feel that way. I think about that too with business. Like some people see it as, ooh, there's new improvements every day. And I'm like, ugh, there's one more
I know.
thing I
I
have to
know.
learn every day.
Yeah. I still have the last time I upgraded my phone, I told myself, I am never going to do this. It's going to die before I ever do this because there's too much to learn, too much to put it. I know where everything is. I know how I want it. But yeah, it's just I think it's the inefficiency of it that it takes you back from being productive when you have to
Yes.
slow down and you're so not good at it for so long. There's such a learning curve to learn a new program. And then it just seems that drag that keeps you from moving forward, I think is
Yeah.
my biggest
Well,
thing.
we're very hung up on productivity.
Yeah, got to
Yeah.
be efficient. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go, let's go. And I find that I need to be good at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm very critical of mistakes or inefficiency or not
Mm.
doing it right, you know. So
Yeah.
I constantly talking myself like it's no big deal, and trying to set my mindset before I start of, okay, this is going to be fine. I bet you it's easy, or this can't be that hard, or there's got to be a video, or
And
so
there's always a video.
I usually go to YouTube first before I even open the app so I
Oh
can
my
get
gosh,
the
that's so smart.
general gist of it.
You know, about 10 years ago or 12 years ago, I remember being overwhelmed because I have three sons and they needed pocket squares and their ties need to be tied. And it's very chaotic the morning of, and the
Oh
services,
yeah.
you have to get there early.
Oh
And I
yeah.
just thought, ugh, I thought I had those ties tied in advance so they
Oh
just could slip them on, but then
yeah.
stupid pocket square. So I was like sweating and trying to get everything organized. And they're like, don't worry, mom. We looked up how to do it on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And why did the sons always go to the mom to tie a tie?
I
Go to your
don't know.
dad. And we all know. Why do we know how to tie a tie?
It's a very good point.
It's always baffled me why a mom knows how to tie a tie and they never think of going to their dad. Not that he wouldn't know for sure because Greg hasn't worn a tie for a couple weddings and funerals, but I probably tie his too for all I know. Would be my guess, but I think that's funny that you had to tie the tie too.
I did. And then it's always tricky getting that bottom piece at the right
Yeah,
length.
and they're too short and they're too long and
Look like clown
you
ties.
know, yes.
So what would you say is the biggest thing you're focusing on right now in your business?
Consistency
Mm,
and getting a routine and getting a momentum of trying to get away from the herky jerky of like, okay, now I'm
right.
going to do this and now I'm going to do that. And
Yes.
then just trying to have a rhythm of this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is when I do it, and feeling like I have a system, I guess, to
Yeah. I
a
can see.
method to my madness.
Yes, definitely. And because a couple of minutes ago you mentioned that it surprised you that you didn't feel as confident as you thought you would, because
Hmm.
clearly you have a lot of skills in a lot of areas and a track record of being very confident and competent in many jobs and many
Right.
parts of your life. And so I would imagine these systems and consistency would help you feel more the way you want to feel about
Right.
your business.
Right. I would just feel more in control of it than
Mm.
reactive. It's like, oh God, I forgot that. Oh, Jesus. I feel like I'm always forgetting something or, spinning plates. There's always plates falling. And it's like, oh, now okay. And I'm always switching gears. And so I would just feel more calm or in
Yeah.
control, maybe. Maybe I'm looking for control
Yeah. And also, you
of,
mentioned earlier that balance was so important to you. And I think balance would also come from this kind of a systematic approach. That's what it sounds like.
yeah. And I've always, the squirrel brain has
Yeah.
never been good for me because so I have to try to get a method or a system, or I go down, I get shiny penny disease and I'm chasing everything that ever comes up. And then, oh, there went an hour and
Oh,
there's
and
a
it's
day.
very fun on your phone. Your phone, my goodness.
Oh, well, just
Oh,
everything,
yeah.
and then a lot of things you have to. It's like, okay, well, I didn't know that, but now I got to learn. And you got to switch gears and get YouTube, and then you got to look at Google a few things, and then you got to learn it before you can do the new thing that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot. There's a
there's a
lot.
lot to it that's built in. So I think I just like to know what I'm doing.
Yeah, 100%. And what's your ideal client look like? Who is she?
My ideal client is someone who has probably teenagers to college age adult kids and parents that are aging and trying to hold down a career, that are just overwhelmed like me. Like, I want clients like me. I don't think I'm alone. I think there's a lot of women out there who are trying to do it all and have done it all their life, and it doesn't work and at this age, and it's not necessary, and we just keep adding more things to it, and we don't see the forest for the trees, and we let ourselves go first, and our own needs always come last. And I just want to help women learn that nobody else suffers by taking care of yourself. In fact, you can help others more when you are healthy and happy and fulfilled and well rested. Sleep is not a luxury.
Right.
A healthy diet is not a luxury. Going for your mammogram is not a luxury. There are simple things that you can do to be part of the equation, and it's not an either or.
Right.
If anything, you have to come first in order to help other people. And we hear that analogy all the time, and it's so cliche. But the busier you get and the more you're taking care of other people, the further you push yourself down. And so I'm working real hard to try to reach women like that who just have had it, and before they get chronic health issues and, lose their own sanity, or
Yeah.
lose relationships, your spouse isn't going to hang around for you, and your parents, is that the relationship you want to have with your parents or your kids when you're acting like your head's spinning around?
Yeah, definitely.
I felt like I was in The Exorcist a lot of times. It's like, who would want to be around me?
Yeah, exactly.
When I was just like, what do you want? What do you want? Ugh, can't. Ugh.
Oh my God. My worst mommy moment. I mean, my son was younger when it happened. And of course I've done a podcast about it, but I call it my mango moment.
Yeah.
And I had this beautiful ripe mango in a bowl on the counter. And I was very busy. I worked downtown and everything. And there was a commute and blah, blah, blah. And he just wanted a mango, and he was too young to cut it himself. So he kept asking me, Mommy, can you please cut me a mango? And I replied, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to cut my kid a mango. I didn't realize how gross that was until I reflected on it as a coach years later. But yeah, I felt that busy to deny my kid fruit. He wanted fruit, and there was a beautiful ripe mango.
Right.
Yeah. So I was too busy to cut my kid a mango. That was a real low for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A big wake up call.
Yeah.
Well, how can people best get in touch with you?
I am on Facebook, Missy Wokasch Coaching, or my website is missywokasch.com.
Hey, and that's MISSYWOKASCH.com. Of course, I'll have these links in the show notes, but I know some people just like to listen and go immediately. So I always make sure to spell it out.
Yep. Yeah, that is, the name does throw people off. So yeah.
You do have some extra letters in there. Okay.
Yeah, there is.
Thank you so much, Missy. It's been great getting to know you and having you on and talking about dogs, and more importantly, talking about really how dangerous it can be for women not to put themselves first, and
For sure.
how it doesn't need to be that way forever. So thank you
Well,
so
and for
much.
those who are starting a business, it's even more important that you take care of yourself because it's your needs, it's your business. So it's all that more paramount to
So true.
put yourself first.
So true. Because
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Being an entrepreneur, though, it's like, it's so exciting. It's very easy to just dive in and go down the rabbit hole because it's fun,
Well, it sounds glamorous too,
doesn't it?
to have your own business and I can do what I want when I want. And it's not rainbows and daisies. There's
No.
work involved and it's a long haul and it's much different. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. That makes sense.
That's accurate.
Yeah. But that's the challenge. That's the part I love. I love the challenge of like, okay, what else? What else can I try? What else do I need to learn? That's one of my motivating themes or messages to myself is like, okay, bring it on. What's next? What else is in this path? I'm going to get there. What's next?
So fun. Well, thanks so
Yes.
much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you.
All right, that is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would also like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.